I think it's very obvious that there are certain things that we can't prove, that science can't prove. So, like unverifiable claims, right?
Okay.
Um, like that there exists a world outside of us, like that God exists. Like, if I said, well, gravity doesn't exist actually, there are just two angels that are the sons of God. Like, God is like a mother ant, and it gives birth to like millions of baby angels a day, like through
Mm-hmm.
its gigantic ant ass. And each of them sits on like both of our shoulders and pushes us down because they don't like how tall we are, you
Okay.
know? Like, you can't prove that's not true, but like it doesn't have any like scientifical meaning. Like it's not worth like engaging with because again, it's like unverifiable, like scientifically.
Well,
So that's yeah,
so I would say this. I would say you're looking so let me give like a bit of a intro to
sure,
what
sure.
so I'm technically not really a philosopher per se. I do more economics on the internet and argue about
Yeah, I
economics.
saw.
So this is my
I saw.
attempt at doing a debate on philosophy and even on philosophy itself. There's some things like I know, but I find it difficult to explain. But epistemology is one of the things that I feel stronger about enough to engage in this debate. But on training wheels basically. So with regards
Good.
to
Then explain to me what epistemology is because I don't
so
know.
how we know what we know.
Okay.
So it's a field of philosophy um, about how we know what we know. Can we
Okay.
trust what we know? Can we achieve certainty and things of that nature? Um,
Okay.
and yeah, so basically
So
philosophy
you're gonna give me so you're going to give me your understanding of like epistemology and then I will give you mine.
yeah, sure. I would just start off
Okay.
by saying that you're looking when you say you can't prove it, you're looking in a sense. You're separating the world into two things. You're separating uh, things we can prove empirically and things we can rationally deduce. And uh,
Yes,
and in my philosophy, I don't separate those; I integrate those. So if
I see.
uh, if for example, um, you were to say there's angels and all that, I said I would require proof to to some degree, like some sort of proof. But you can say the proof that you provide me. Um, hold on. The proof that you provide me um, can be something from somewhere else, and then you form a concept. You say, well, this concept it applies here and it applies here as well and here as well. Therefore, it can also apply somewhere else. That you can do.
Okay. Um I guess maybe then we don't have much to debate. The way that I see it is like obviously so I think that the way we understand things is that because we can't prove the concept that like I'm a brain in a vat like inventing all of this, because we can't no because we can't disprove that, but we all have to still exist, and presumably
Well,
maybe we're all
maybe
actually around.
before
Yeah.
we go, I can answer the brain in the vat, but before we go to the brain in the vat, let's just go to more
No, no, no.
fundamentals.
I'm explaining generally.
Sure, sure, go ahead.
Don't worry. Yeah. So I think that humans have agreed on certain things. Like, do I think the world exists outside of human existence, outside of my existence? I can't prove that, and I can't disprove that. But I think we all generally agreed that that's how we're going to manage ourselves in the world to allow for like best outcomes if we all indeed agree. If even if we all indeed like existed. So the point of saying like the world, you can't prove that the world exists, that you're not a brain in a vat type of thing. It's just a very high, like, I don't want to call it high philosophical thinking because that sounds really pretentious. But you because we got on this conversation from the Destiny tweet, and like Destiny said, like I'd never go into a conversation where that's the level of what we're discussing, because it's just like it's not worthwhile engaging in, so I'd never do that. That's what he said. For me, that's just like my type of intellectual jerking off. Like that's what I enjoy. But there is no substance to conversations like that, because they get stunted with like, well, you don't know, you're not a brain in a vat, so how can we talk about morals when morals might not even exist, blah 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 blah, you know. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I would say that I can't carry on at this point. I'll have to like put a pin in it and come back to it, because I'll have to like go to something much more fundamental, and then we can reach what you just pointed out. So
Okay,
without
sure.
being rude, I'm just gonna ask if we can put a pin in it for now.
No, sure. I just wanted to explain that maybe we don't actually disagree, because when people see me say like, hey, you don't know that there's a world out there, they're like, no, we can, we have all these things and science, and I'm like, I agree that in the concept of humanity we all agree on these principles. We just can't prove that these principles exist outside of our making.
Okay, so I describe what you're saying now as what's called collective subjectivism, because a lot of us are saying this is reality, therefore it must be reality. But I would like to say that us as individuals also can view reality. We can see interact with reality individually.
Sure, but is that reality? So
Well,
like
yeah.
Okay, so a schizophrenic person that's engaging with their reality, you would call that reality as well?
Well, before we reach like edge cases or things that are,
Okay.
let's just go to like the basics first.
Okay,
So
sure.
would you? I guess I have to start with metaphysics. Would you say that something exists? Like if you hold,
I don't know.
if I hold, well, I'm asking, if I hold a cup of tea, and I've got my senses giving me information that I'm holding a cup of tea. So my skin is feeling a cup of tea. I can see it. I can taste it. I can smell it. I can hear it if I like make
It exists in my reality, yeah, and in probably everyone's reality.
So does something,
unless I'm sick, yeah.
does something exist, or the opposite is nothing exists?
No, there's a middle option. Wait, are you asking me how I run myself from day to day, or are you asking me philosophically?
I'm really just asking basic questions at this point. I haven't formed a worldview just yet. I'm just asking, like, if you hold a tea, would you say, if you hold a cup of tea, would you say something exists, the cup of tea exists, something exists? As the opposite, the opposite of it would be nothing exists. There is no cup of tea and nothing exists.
Sure, yes, I'll say that I have the cup, which means that it exists, and I have it. Yeah.
Okay, so if something exists, then
yeah,
as opposed to nothing exists, and if nothing exists, then it's like a sort of self-refuting statement. Then if something exists, then existence exists, and existence is all the thing that exists together. So existence is like the scope of everything that exists together. And in that sense, existence exists.
But that's why I asked you, like, because just because I say that the cup exists doesn't mean that it actually exists. It just means that that's what I think, you know.
But sorry. So what do you mean when you say you think that a cup exists?
Yeah. So like, I have a certain feeling of existence.
Of an object, I mean, you mean, right?
Well, no, because I could just relate it to, again, like when we have VR, we might feel like things exist, or we see things in our preview, but they don't actually exist, you know? That's how our brains are really complicated.
Okay, so let's look at it in another way. If I have a dog, and I want to know if he can see things in reality and if he can smell things in reality, how would I evaluate that?
In reality, as far as we understand, I don't know. I'm not a scientist. You tell me.
Well, just again, not.
If he dodges it,
So we'll do some kind of experiments. If my dog sees something and avoids it, let's say, then he can see it. If I put something and he can smell it, and he walks towards something that I put for him that has a strong smell, then he likes, then his sense of smell works. Yeah.
We assume that, yeah.
Right. Okay. So can we do the same thing for ourselves? So if we wanted to prove that our senses can pick up data from reality, what would that look like? What would be the standard of proof to prove that that is true?
Well, it's actually a lot easier with humans because humans can talk.
Before talking, before
So
language, just how can we prove that our senses are giving us data about reality? Just or what is the standard of proof? What would proof look like if it was true?
um I'm not sure what you're asking me because this is just like scientific inquiry, right?
Forget the scientific method. Just like, how do I know that there's a table in front of me and the table exists in reality?
Because and then you touch it and then it feels like it's there.
Okay, so I'm getting sensory data from my eyes and hand, let's say, and then my brain deduces that this particular object is a table because I've seen tables before, let's say, and then
We've
I'm
learned that what tables are.
yeah. So in the past, I've encountered a table. I've used inductive reasoning to form the idea of tableness, and now I'm seeing a table again, and I'm deducing that this is a table, and I'm touching and seeing it. Right? Is this table
Okay,
in
sure.
reality?
In our reality, yeah,
In the
probably.
reality?
As again, like, sure. As far as we understand reality, yeah.
Okay, so let's say in this particular instance, we say that our eyesight, and let's say we bumped into the table or we touched the table, and those two senses that we got sensory data helped us interact with reality, helped us understand reality. And are we agreeing that sensory data is a valid way of interacting with reality or knowing reality?
Yeah, scientifically, that's the
In your
predominant way
in
we
your
understand
opinion?
it. Yeah, sure.
Okay, well, if you trust your senses, then don't you think that you can know reality?
You can know human reality. You can know the reality that is yours. You can't prove that there's a reality outside of you and your experiences. You can't even prove that your experiences are real.
Right, but I sorry, not exactly. So if my senses, would you say the senses? We agree the senses are accurate. So if my senses are picking up data from reality, let's say I have a table and we agree that I have sight and I touched or I bumped into it. And now let's take a bat, and a bat
Yeah,
has like
I think that where we're clashing is that when you say we're picking up something from reality,
mhm.
you're already working off the premise that there's a reality to do that from.
So the
And my entire point is that you can't actually prove that. We could be creating reality, or there could be reality outside of us, and I just can't. There's no proof or way to disprove which one it is. That's the claim is very simple. It's very easy.
in a sense, you've technically agreed that there is an existence outside of us. You've said that there is
No,
something. Well, I'll explain. You said that there is something that exists because you can hold something and say this object is something that exists, and existence is all the existing existence in together as existence, like existence
so
exists,
that's why.
and then the other thing is
Mhm.
you're saying your senses are a valid form of picking up data from existence, and if that is true, then we can pick up things in reality. My dog can pick up things in reality. A bat, let's say, that has like a
Yes.
sonar
So
thing, can pick up things.
the reason why I kept prefacing everything that you were asking, and you were saying I'm just asking a basic question, and I'm like, no, you're actually not, is because just because I'm saying yes, I can agree this table if I'm touching it and if I'm seeing it is a table that exists outside of me,
Mm-hmm.
but that's again only under the presumption Like, yes, that is true in human reality, in my experience. But first of all, as I keep repeating, we can't prove or disprove the existence of a world outside of us specifically. And even if we could do that, we can't do that outside of humanity specifically. So I don't know if anything exists outside of us, nor does it particularly matter because we all operate like it is. So yeah, using your senses is usually a good thing to do. If you try to exist as a human, saying that you don't know if you're just a vat and you're just a brain in a vat or you're just a nose in a vat, that's going to prove very hard to live. So we just act like we know that that's not the case, which is fine. Like, I don't judge that. It's just like normal human functionality. But to say that there's proof that something exists outside of us is ridiculous because there isn't.
If you agree that the senses pick up data from existence, from reality, that is a form of proof. That is a form of data.
I don't, though.
So
How do
you
you
don't.
know that your brain isn't generating that?
How do you know? How do I know that my brain is just generating sense from reality, from sense data?
How do you know that anything exists outside of you? How do you know we're a brain? Maybe we are an alien that doesn't have a brain and it's just generating this image. Maybe we're AI. Like, it's not even a brain thing.
So you're saying that nothing exists. That technically, I can't say that anything exists. This whole conversation could be imaginary. I could be a brain in a vat
Yeah.
somewhere, and nothing exists.
I'm saying that I don't know if it exists. We can't prove or disprove it. So it's not exists or doesn't exist. It's we don't know.
So what is sensory?
We can't know.
What is sensory data then?
Sensory data, in our understanding, it's just something that our brain picks up.
From?
Right? We have from the existence that we have.
So let's say we have let's say our brain, but to be more accurate, our brain and our nervous system is technically our brain, not just the people just think that the gray matter is separated from the spine and the nervous system, but typically the nervous system and the brain is what should be considered the brain.
I need to interrupt you for a second.
Sure.
Here's the problem. You're using a semantic argument about something that we've constructed language a certain way. There's only so many ways that I can like verbalize myself in this conversation about like pick up from what, and then I have to say reality. And if you refuse to acknowledge that I already said that, like, I don't know if that reality is real or not, but we're operating like it is, and that's also how our language is constructed. And then you're like, well, you're saying it's picked up from reality, therefore reality exists. Like, again, my language doesn't create. Well, language does create reality, actually. I hope, but again, it depends on the definition of reality.
I hope I'm not playing linguistic, or at least I don't feel I am. Like, I could be wrong,
okay.
But I'm still trying to stick in the area that I know, which is epistemology. So let's look at it in a completely different angle. Yeah.
Sure.
Let's say that. Let's take biology. Yeah. Let's say that biological organic things. For argument's sake, let's say they do exist, but let's say organic things exist, and in this hypothetical that I'm mentioning right now, we know that organic things need food and water to survive. Okay?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to make the claim, rational claim, that these things that need food and water to survive, let's take plants to one side. Let's take living things that need to move towards water or move towards food. They need to have some senses to interact with the environment. Otherwise, they won't be able to find food, take actions to find food, take actions to find water, and they'll eventually die off. So they need some way, just to survive. They need some way to interact with reality, and I would also claim that that's the function of the senses, to give them sensory data about reality, and then they can make decisions based on, oh, I'm going left,
yes,
I'm going right, stuff like that.
But you're still operating on inside the realm of like science and deductive reasoning, which is the realm that we generally engage in. and that's important. Like, otherwise we wouldn't be able to survive, as the example that you gave. However, what I'm talking about is, for example, if no humans existed, if humanity just didn't exist, is Earth real?
Okay, so before we say none of this is real, and how do we know we're not just imagining all of it?
Yeah.
Let before we get to like this very hypothetical situation, what do you
Well,
think
you
my
have to, because the small hypotheticals we're using are relevant to my claim. That's the problem.
well, so if
Because,
nothing
like,
if nothing
mhm.
exists, then this whole conversation is contradictory. Like you don't actually exist. What's the purpose of us doing this discussion? For example, I'm not saying hang up right away, but what's the
there's
purpose of it? It's like if nothing exists, then we
there's
don't
a
exist.
difference.
There's a contradiction in even uh
That's not a contradiction.
in a sense.
People have a very normal human reaction where they lose a sense of meaning, then they say there's a contradiction or something doesn't make sense. If nothing existed, which I'm not saying it does, I'm saying we can't know. But let's say someone reached the conclusion that nothing existed, a lot of people would feel like there is no meaning to life. And that is a very scary concept to accept. So they'll say stuff like it's contradictory, but it's not, because you have a feeling of existence. It could be fake, it could be wrong, you could be an AI, you could be a Sims, you could be someone in the imagination of an alien. I used to think how funny it is if we're all just dolls in God's daughter's dollhouse. So there are a lot of ideas, but while it might cause an existential crisis to think that we're not real, that doesn't make the experiences that we're living, like, we're still living through them. They just could be not real.
No,
They
no, it's
could
not.
be,
It's not
we
real.
don't know.
The experiences are not real. Our existential crisis isn't real. It's not. None of it's real.
Yeah,
So
sure.
what's so
It could be not real.
so why
We
why
don't
even why
know.
even why even take any action? Just like stay in one place and wait for something to pass or you to stop existing, assuming you even
Yeah,
exist.
yeah, that's like the lack of meaning aspect of it, right?
No, no, but the
That's what's scary.
right, but
Mhm.
even if you provided some kind of arbitrary meaning, it's still like meaning to a non-existence exist to an existence that doesn't actually exist, to a person that doesn't actually exist. It's like it's not that we need some kind of facade to keep existing if we're not actually sure if we are existing and to what end do we need to exist. It's just like a all-encompassing presupposition that you can't prove or disprove, but you are presupposing it.
I'm not presupposing
You,
it.
you
As
have
I
to
said,
you have to presuppose it. Otherwise, it's the claim is an
as I said,
axiomatic claim.
as I said, like a few times, I'm saying that it could be or could not be real. There, it's not an either or. There are three options. The third option is we don't know.
Oh, okay,
We
so
can't know.
I say I do know that I do know with certainty that I'm sitting right now on a chair.
Mm-hmm.
I've got plenty of stimuli from the environment to pick up. And based on that, and based on my uh, deductive reasoning, inductive reasoning, a variety of different logical conclusions, plus sensory data, I know that I exist and I'm sitting on a chair. Would you disagree?
No.
Okay, so how can I persuade you also that you are now sitting on a chair or a bed or a sofa based on
You
the
don't need to persuade me. You talked about what was it? Collective subjectivity earlier?
well, there's no other
Like, as
people,
we said.
but
Mhm.
other like 10 other people next to you now looking at you sitting on the bed, and together you're all agreeing that you're sitting on a bed, or because there's
No,
no
but
collective now.
most humans on the planet agree that reality, like that we choose to engage with what we perceive to be reality, right? Like, we have science, we have politics, we have existence, we have lives.
And
They could not really, they could all be a simulation. It doesn't really matter. We just live through it.
so let's, as far as I know from science, is science not based
Mhm.
of observations, like at the core of it?
Yes, which is why some claims are not possible to prove.
Sorry.
Which is why some claims are not possible to prove because you can't observe and measure them.
Right, but hold on. So all the mathematical formulas and all the theories about reality, or let's say gravity, for example, they start from observation. Then you form a theory, you form a model, you form a mathematical formula, because
Yeah, an
that's
observation that a human made. Yes, that humans agreed on. That
hundred
humans
percent
agree on.
right. But these
Yes,
observations seem to be true no matter who replicates it across the planet.
sure, but that's why I asked you if no humans existed, does Earth exist? And the answer is we don't know because there'll be no one to observe it unless you take animals into account.
Okay, if there are animals, would Earth exist?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking you.
So let's say a toddler. Let's say a
Mm.
toddler sees a ball, and just bear with me for a second. A toddler sees a ball, and they push the ball, and the ball rolls, and the toddler learns that balls roll. So this is a, let's say, for argument's sake, let's say this is a mathematical formula, which perhaps it probably is. Ball factoring certain thing, balls roll. Let's say, and then like a week later, all humans on Earth ceased existing, but we have animals now on Earth. And let's say the
Okay.
dog of the dog of the same family that had the kid sees the ball, runs towards it, pushes the ball, and the ball rolls.
Wait, how do you know that anything existed once humans stopped
Well,
existing?
this is my hypothetical. I'm explaining the hypothetical. So,
Okay.
course, obviously, I don't think all humanity can just vanish in the hypothetical, but
No, I'm saying that your hypothetical already assumes that there is a reality outside of humans. That's
sure.
my
So let's
point. So
so
it
let
doesn't
let
work.
let's do like this. Let's say, let's go back to the table, right? So I'm in a room, and there's a
Sure.
table in the middle of the room. I touch the table, I saw the table, I believe the table exists based on my sense. I'm convinced that the table exists based on my sense
Okay.
information, and then I leave the room. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
No, there's no other human there. Does the table still
Mm-hmm.
exist in the room?
You're asking me?
Yes, I'm asking you.
Yeah, under our understanding of reality, it does. Yes.
But there's no one to observe. There's no one to, no human to see if the table exists in the room at that point in time.
Yes, but science still exists and science like demonstrated object permanence. So
Oh, so if there's object permanence, then if all humans cease to exist,
for humans,
the objects will still continue to exist, right?
um, if reality exists outside of humans, yes, but we can't prove that is my point.
So we both have object permanence, and we can prove that reality exists where we have these laws of science that everyone seems to follow, and it seems to work for animals and humans.
Can you repeat that?
So let's say, I'll give you two examples, right? So we said, so humans and animals exist like they do currently. A child pushes the ball rolls, then the dog pushes the ball, and the ball rolls. And even a child on the other side of the planet pushes the ball, and a different ball, different shape, different size, different weight, and the ball still rolls. That's one example. The second example, we have a table in a room. I leave the room, but then there's a bat in
Okay.
the room, and the bat does a sonar signal, and the bat picks up that there's a table in the room based on its different senses, but it's still object permanence of the table.
Okay.
Sounds
What are you asking me?
do both cases sound reasonable in your opinion?
Sure.
Is
Sure.
that part of existence, part of reality, or not? Or we don't know?
That's part of the reality as we understand reality. Is the way that humans understand reality actual reality? We don't know.
Oh, okay. I see
We
what you're saying.
just chose to agree on certain things.
I see. Okay, so
Okay.
let me just see if I can pick up the position. So we we see reality in a particular way, and let's say we filter reality in a particular way, and our way of filtering reality um, could be different than other people's way of viewing reality. Is that because we see reality in a particular way, in a filtered way, not direct, not clean, and but other people could see it differently because they have different filters and stuff like that. Is that more or less what you're saying?
No, it has nothing to do with humans. Humans generally have the same understanding of reality, just very broadly speaking, because we all seem to have collective shared notions. So if we were all a simulation, we could all be like individual simulations or one of the big, like one simulation. It doesn't matter. The point is, you need to get back to the point of like, if there were no humans to exist, there would be no way to prove that Earth exists. And as long as you can't contend with that, you can't know if reality exists or not, because you can't prove that we exist.
Well,
We only exist because other people are here to affirm our existence. And if none of us exist, then it could be that our affirmations are just like feedback loops from each other.
well, I think then you'd struggle to say how we came into existence, and I think
Really?
we can technically prove that the Earth existed, billions of years before we did, through, I assume, science, and before we
Yes, but
existed.
science is a human invention.
It's
So
but science is observation of reality. I mean, the laws of logic, for example,
human observational reality.
yeah, that's
Yes.
not that doesn't mean it's not part of reality. Like, just because we observe it, it doesn't mean there's like a filter, and we like observed one thing, but reality is something else. It's not a noumenal and
Why
phenomenal
not?
world
Why not?
because we can objectively
Prove it.
see. I'm trying to.
What's objective?
Objective? Well, okay, let's let me see if I can answer your question with an example, right?
Sure.
Do you think the
I'm
law?
having fun, by the way. I'm not mocking you. I know I'm joking. It's because I'm having fun. I told you this is my intellectual masturbation. I literally die for this shit. And so
Outstanding.
it's
So let's take an example. Do you believe the laws of logic exist outside humans, like they apply anywhere with or without humans?
I don't know. How would I know?
Okay, so that would be difficult.
I
So
agree.
so let's say it like this, right?
Yeah.
Let's say there's reality, and I'm just stay with me here for a second. There's reality, and there's patterns
Okay.
in reality that
Mm-hmm.
repeat, right? So math, logic, and humans were like, this repeats. This looks interesting. This looks like a puzzle to me, and humans like to solve
Mm-hmm.
puzzles. And then
I agree with all of this. Mhm.
right, and then they came with these laws of logic and math. And even though
It works out.
even though like thousands of years ago, it's completely different humans, completely different culture, different language, they're all like very, very, very different people from that period. These laws of logic and math still exist with us today, and we can use them to interact with the world and in a find shortcuts to certain things, abstract complicated topics into more like easier to digest concepts, and once we've digested these concepts, we can then, let's say, reapply them to the world and solve particular problems with electricity,
Yes.
or push a ball, or let's say drop
Or
something
make
from a
stuff
castle.
or create technology
Yeah,
or solve problems or make medicine.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but making
And
medicine and
this
technology, that's not just a human. I mean, that's not just a human way. Like we made those things, and those things now have come into existence in a way. Like we've manufactured them. We understood reality well enough to manufacture these things.
sure.
But that's quite the achievement, I think.
That's wonderful. Yes. Okay. you realize that all of my claims are based on a very simple, like, I'm going to call it gotcha. And that's that I'm going to say something ridiculous and then I'm going to go, you can't disprove this. And it's just, and because it's not an observational claim that we can measure in science, you literally, under science, under the system that we have created to measure and understand reality as we understand it, you cannot engage with my ridiculous claims. That's all I'm doing.
Well, I would
could
say,
be like, hey,
I would say to that some of the claims you made to begin with, I would say for you to make a claim, again, you can make the claim. You need some proof. Not that actual angels. So let's say you say angel something. I remember. You'll have to make.
Yes.
You'll have to say that
God is an angel.
You have to say that angels exist somewhere else. Let's say, like there's some proof somewhere that an angel exists, and then you have the concept of an angel, and then once you have the concept of an angel, you can say, even though we haven't observed an angel over there, it could be the case that an angel did this because an angel, we proved that an angel somewhere else. So to have a possibility, you have to have some proof that you can, some concrete, that you can extrapolate and abstract from, and
That's
then say,
not true though.
true.
When religious people say God is real,
Yeah.
that's like an invention that they made. So like there's
it's not
concrete evidence.
There's no concrete evidence that God exists. That's right. They don't have any.
Yeah.
Right.
But they still say it. So.
But they're wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Well, when we say dragons, dragons supposedly don't exist and never existed. But we still have the concept of a dragon. So I can still talk about angels without angels existing.
Yeah.
We can talk about a lot of things that don't actually exist.
Right. We have like imagination.
Reality.
Yeah, we have imagination. We have stories, shared stories even. But we know the dragons don't exist. We just like it in stories. The idea of a dragon exists, not an actual dragon.
Yes. Okay. So what was your point?
That there isn't proof for dragons or God.
Okay. And angels?
Also with no proof, as far as I know.
Okay. So what was your point bringing that up? Because I was going to say, hey, I can give you an option right now. I can give you an alternative to why science works out. And the alternative, I could literally make something crazy up and you just can't disprove it because there's no way to disprove it under a scientific method. I can say, hey, we're all in The Sims. And in The Sims, the simulation of The Sims, there are laws. There are laws of logic. There is physics. And we are all existing in this simulation together. You know, I can just say that and you can't disprove that. So, there's no way to disprove that, which is why there's no utility to doing so in real life with human communication. But this conversation, which is why I love these conversations, is the only time when it's appropriate to say. And that thought is so stimulating to me. So thank you.
So to have a possibility of something, let's say that we're all in The Sims, you have to have some evidence for it. So why do you think you do? So I'll explain why. So I'll explain why. Okay.
Okay.
Let's say there's I'm in my room, but there's a possibility that a massive monster will come into my room. Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So in this possibility, there are some assumptions which are certain. First of all, that I exist and the room exists. If there was a possibility for those two assumptions on two certainties, if there's a possibility that they don't exist, then obviously a monster can't come into my room if the room doesn't exist, right?
Yes.
And obviously
but that's all under the assumption that you're assuming that reality exists.
So I'm giving you
operate under.
I'm giving you an example that to have a possibility, you have to have some certainty. A little certainty.
Yes. Under a human understanding of reality.
No, hold on. Yes. This is just basic logic here. So
yes, logic is a
right. So let me explain why.
How do you know logic exists outside of humans? You don't.
because we all observe reality, and we can observe reality, and we see that these patterns keep repeating, like logic and math.
Outside of humans,
But hold
as
on,
in when humans don't exist.
Let me explain with the room example. So let's say there's a possibility,
Okay.
there's a small possibility that that a large monster will come into my room. But again, the certainties are that I exist and the room exists. But if those are a possibility as well, like it may or may not exist as a possibility, then that they don't exist, then also the room can exist. So if, for example, so it's basically multiplying by, if you do it with math, it's basically multiplying by 0. If there's a possibility that I don't exist or the room doesn't exist, then it's times 0 and the whole thing is 0. So, and the more things that you're uncertain of, the more chance of it just being 0. So if, for example, the room doesn't exist, there's some chance of it times by 0 and the whole thing is 0. Same for me. If the staircase up to my room doesn't really exist, and another possibility of multiplication by 0. If the house doesn't exist, another possibility, and basically you just end to 0. So you need some certainty to have a possibility. You need some.
But you're
some,
using
so let's say
concepts of humans.
1 second, to say that I'm a brain in a vat, you have to say, well, why do you think you're in a vat? So let's say you're in the Matrix and then some kind of blip you saw happened and it doesn't make sense, or like in a particular part of the Matrix there's no gravity for some strange reason. Like, oh well, maybe I'm not in reality, I'm in something else. So you need some sort of certainty to say there's a possibility of something.
Yeah, which is why, because there's no certainty outside of human existence, I can't say that we know that we exist.
So the certainty would be sensory data.
The certainty would be that, well, I don't even know what certainty I would require, because human data is like unreliable.
Why is human data unreliable? What is unreliable about sensory data?
That you can manipulate sensory data. It's why the brain in a vat is even a thing in the first place, because you can make a brain think a lot of different things with how you manipulate it. That's why we also depend on that cultural subjectivity you're talking about. What was it? Collective subjectivity.
So let's say that you, in this hypothetical that you're in a brain of vat, let's say you try to manipulate the senses coming into the brain, but you don't do it very well. And that's what tips you off that you're in a brain of vat, yeah? Like something is wrong, something doesn't feel right, or doesn't the patterns break, because we like to solve patterns, and some pattern doesn't feel right. Then this is the Matrix, it's not real life. And then something tells, oh, this doesn't feel right. I can't smell it. I'm supposed to smell it.
No, you don't have to feel that. No, we could all just be a brain in a vat, like operating completely fine. We can be a nose in a vat. We can be an alien pretending that they're human.
I need some certainty to prove that we're all.
No, I know you do. I know you do, because that's the only way to avoid the existential crisis. But we don't have that. That's what I mean. We don't.
Well, I do think that we do have some feedback from reality. We can observe reality. We can see patterns in it. So that's my opinion. Saying that this could all not be real, I think that is a contradictory position that just doesn't follow.
Why?
It doesn't make sense. And if it
doesn't follow from what?
Well, the example I gave before, that if nothing exists, then what's the point of this? We can't do these things. We can just like stay in one place till we die.
You're conflating meaning with existence. You think that existence
must
be meaningful.
Before we even need meaning, right? So what would we do in existence, assuming it didn't exist? If existence didn't exist, what? Forget, without meaning, just what do we do? What should we do? We don't. It doesn't need to be meaningful, but what should we be doing in general? Just like warming like our bodies need to warm something like a battery in the Matrix, or what is the claim?
The claim is that the claim is the original claim I made. You simply cannot know
but in your system,
that something exists outside of us. However that makes you feel is up to you. But the fact of the matter is you can't.
Forget the can or cannot know. What should we be doing in the existence that you claim is the case?
what we already do. We all collectively kind of agree that we're all going to pretend like we do know, and then we just move forward from there.
Okay, so before we collectively agree on anything, in this reality that you say that we all agree on, do we need food and water to survive?
Yeah.
Why?
No, wait, before we agree on that?
Before there's other, we live on an island, right? No other humans, no other collectives, right? I don't know what they think.
Humanity already exists. We can't disconnect humans from humanity because this whole concept of acknowledging reality could be a human invention, could be a human concept. It could be an alien imagining us imagining reality.
Yeah,
this is what I mean. I can just continue to throw unreasonable claims at you because I'm not bound to logic.
Build a full scenario. Don't just throw unreasonable claims and say you can't prove it. Build a whole system.
Why would I?
Because it needs to make sense. It doesn't, like, what would be?
No, it doesn't.
You're saying no. It needs to so it doesn't need to be consistent in any way. Sure, I can just throw a claim, say you can't prove it, and walk away, or say give me some proof that I can't and don't need to, and just walk away. It doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't need to make sense. That's the point.
Okay, it's not convincing then.
I understand. As I said, my point this entire time is that putting out claims that are not disprovable by science make it so I'm invulnerable to stuff like, well, this isn't scientific or this isn't whatever. And then it's very easy for me to say, well, I don't know, like because I'm just making unprovable claims like God exists. So I'm saying we're a brain in a vat. You can't prove it, and you can't prove that we're not.
So I have replied that I would need more for your claim. I would need some more things for your claim to make sense. I would need some proof, or you'd need to build like more of a system around it. But I think let's go over. You
were supposed to prove to me that reality exists, well, not the other way around.
Okay, so in order to prove that, I'd need some standard of proof.
There is no standard of proof. That's
well, for me to prove that reality exists, I need from you to tell me what would that proof look like.
My standard of proof is this. I need to know if humans cease to exist. Like this right now, does Earth still exist the same way? I need to know that. How do we verify that?
Okay, so if we look at really old rocks before human existed, is that good for you, not good for you?
Of course it's not good for me, because the rock could just be something that our brain is generating, right?
Our brain generates reality? Our brain can manifest reality?
No, our brain doesn't generate reality. Okay. If reality doesn't exist, we're generating reality.
But what does that mean?
You don't know if we're generating reality, is the point. We don't know.
I need clarification here. So by the way, first of all, apart from this example of rocks, science and rocks, I've only been using philosophy up to now. But let's say,
okay, cool.
Let's say we use science, we find really old rocks, so we find these really old dinosaur bones, and so on and so forth.
They're so cool.
They're so cool, 100%. And is the claim now from yourself that we imagined these things and they came to existence? So our collective imagination is existent, and something got introduced into it somehow. I'm not clear how. I'm saying
that I can't even tell if you're real.
I think you can.
No, I'm assuming and choosing to operate.
Right, but I think if you wanted to prove that I'm real, you can. You could.
How?
Well, let's discuss that. How would you prove that I'm real by your standards? And you can't say there's no standard. I need some standard.
I gave you the standard.
I need the possibility.
If all humans disappeared right now,
okay,
how do we know that the Earth continues to exist?
Can I have
the way that it does?
why is that relevant to proving if something exists? How do humans obscure reality that you need to make them go away?
Because humans,
Yep.
there are a variety of reasons why humans might be agreeing on reality or projecting reality or imagining reality, or maybe humans don't even exist in the first place and it's something else imagining humans. And I could just continue to generate these claims because I'm not held to
Right. So
a
you
logical standard.
so you have a very active imagination, but how do we prove? So let's say
Thank
how
you.
I still need to understand how humans obscure reality without using the imagination, just like a claim that because there are humans, we can't see reality as it is, or we together obscure reality
We
in some way.
don't know.
Well, let's
I'm not saying
how would we know?
you keep assuming that reality exists and there's an obscuring of it. And I'm saying reality could exist. Reality could not exist. And either way, humans with the current tools in our possession do not have the ability to tell which is which. Therefore, when we exist with each other, we just choose to assume like it exists and operate inside the human systems we've constructed for it.
Right, but you've made a claim.
Again, it's very simple.
You've made a claim that the tools in our possessions don't prove that stuff exists. Why not?
That stuff exists because the tools in our possession are all dependent on human observation.
And why would human observation be wrong?
Why would human observation be wrong? Because
yes.
We've proven many a times that you can manipulate human observation.
So there's a possibility of it being wrong. Is there a possibility of it being right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, let's say
I keep saying that. It could be right. Yeah.
Let's take the humanness away from the equation. Let's take a binoculars, yeah? Right? If we take binoculars, and let's just say it's not a human looking through binoculars, it's just like kind of neutral entity, right? Do the binoculars?
What's a neutral entity?
I don't know. I can't think of anything. Just say this for the sake of the argument. Just focus on the binoculars. If the binoculars look in a particular direction, like you point them, the entity points them in a particular direction, would they get right data from reality through the binoculars?
Does the entity exist? Does the world exist? How do you know it?
I'm just trying to give an example. So the binoculars doesn't have a brain. They're not wrong or right. It's just they're mute. It's just an object, right? And light goes.
Someone is looking through the binoculars.
Right, but the binoculars. Forget the someone. The binoculars itself. Are they wrong or right?
The binoculars are fine, but to interpret data from the binoculars, you require an entity.
I understand.
Yes.
Right. So the data from reality and by extension our eyes can act as binoculars. The eyes are not wrong, right? It's how we interpret the data where things could go wrong. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. That's my point.
So why would the eyes be wrong, for example?
Well, some people have. Oh, wait. Is eyes being wrong and like misinterpreting the data? Like what happens when someone has like bad vision?
Then their eyes are obscure, but they still see stuff. Let's say they're colorblind, right? They still see stuff from reality, but they don't get the correct color from it. But they still see objects, they still see movement and the outlines of stuff.
No, there are blind people.
There are blind people, yeah?
Yeah, or there are people who are legally blind, but they can still see, right?
Right, but the people who are not blind, are they seeing? Okay, so what I'm making the claim is this. So I'll just get to the point. That the eyes and other sensory data, they do see reality as it is. The argument that you're presenting is the interpretation of this data could be wrong, but the data itself is not wrong or right. It's mute. The eyes don't come to a conclusion and then feed you back the conclusion. They just give you data. They don't filter it. They just give you data as is.
A person having flawed vision, like sensory intake, does not mean anything. That's why all humans need to disappear for you to get a reasonable conclusion for me, because other humans are there to validate the data, but it could be data that humans are creating.
So the eyes don't give us data from reality? It could be created data?
Okay, you keep using the word reality, and
Sorry,
we kept saying
whatever you'd like to replace that. Do the eyes?
No. But
us...
here's the thing. This is why I said it's a semantic argument, because language does not construct it in a way for me to say a thing that might or might not exist, that we don't know if it's a simulation or real or outside of our projection or perception or not. We just call it reality because that is the most effective way for humans to interact with each other.
Sure.
However, for this conversation, it is highly lacking because we are specifically talking about the existence of such a thing that in any other conversation we would address as an obvious, as a given.
Okay, does the data coming into the eyes from something, is that wrong? Is that wrong? Can it be wrong or right, or is it just mute, like just data coming in?
It can be wrong or right. Yeah.
How can you make it wrong? How can the eye that doesn't have its own brain, let's say just the eye itself, how can that be a thing that is wrong or right? An organ of the body that is wrong or right?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? Maybe I didn't understand your question.
So let's say that the eye receives data from something. So data goes into the eye and the eye feeds the brain data, but the eye itself is not wrong or right. It's mute. It doesn't make decisions that could be wrong or right.
But data is from the external world, and you said you can prove to me that the external world exists, and I told you, no, you can't prove that.
I'm just trying to...
So
I'm just trying to... Hold on. But I'm...
Okay.
The way... So...
When you say data, you're talking about the external world. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, like, so you're saying, I don't know exactly what you're saying, the eyes don't actually exist, or what is the claim?
I'm saying I'm saying we can't know.
No, I'm just making a separation here, because what you've alluded to is that people can be wrong about reality. I'm just trying to figure out where the wrongness happens. And I'm saying that from what I understood from you, it happens in the brain, but I'm trying to ask if the senses are at least getting
What
data.
if we're not a brain?
Sorry?
What if we're not a brain?
Before we jump to, can we just finish this particular point? So,
no,
so the senses are the senses,
because you're assuming things that under my worldview don't matter.
Well, but let's just say let me change your worldview.
The Sims don't have a brain. We just think
we're changing your worldview as it happens right now, right? So the eyes, the senses, do they accept data, and is the data that they receive, right? Is that wrong? Can that be wrong or right, or is it just mute, like just data coming in, and then the brain?
Under the way humans understand reality, it seems that some data can be taken in wrong or right.
Can you give me an example?
Because we have a general measure of objectivity.
Can you give me an example where it's wrong or right, or wrong, let's say?
Yeah, for example, there's that condition where people feel like they're missing limbs, or that they have extra limbs, or when they feel like their limbs aren't their own, stuff like that.
Right, but so I would say that's something in the brain, right? And I can agree with you that we can be wrong or right in that area, but
yeah.
Specifically, or sound, eyes or ears, let's say, could we be imagining could the eyes be wrong by giving us wrong data about reality? Sorry, I'm using reality again, I apologize, but the same question for ears, they'll just give us wrong data.
I'm sorry, what? My chat was calling me ableist, and it was annoying because I'm having a difficult conversation.
So let's just really basic. Let's just keep it super basic. We're not even talking about the brain. Brain to one side, it's in a vat. Forget about the brain. Yeah, it's out to lunch.
Okay, sure.
Right.
Sure.
The eyes and ears. Do they pick up data? Right. Let's just say they do. Well, that's their function. At least. They're supposed to do that thing.
Sure.
And is the data that they're picking up, can it be wrong, or is it just mute? It's like a video camera or
Oh,
like
that's what you're
binoculars.
trying to say,
Yes,
that like the data comes as it is and then the interpretation.
yes.
That's great, except that you're assuming that the data exists in the first place.
I am assuming that the data exists in the first place, but I'm saying that that's the function of these organs to pick up data. That and they can't be wrong.
Prove those organs are real.
So you're saying we don't have eyes or ears? That's fake.
I'm saying, I'm saying,
Yeah.
that if you can't tell me if the Earth exists without humans being
No,
there to
you keep
observe it.
wait.
Yes.
I don't. I look you. You keep jumping
Yes.
off to other topics, and I really just
Do
need
you know
to
why?
like just agree to
Do
this.
you know why?
Hold on, I just need to agree to this Lego building block before I can make a whole set of Legos. So this one Lego building block, can we agree on it, or we don't agree? So are you saying
No, we can't.
we can't
because
agree?
last time I tried building Legos with you, you did a thing where I used words like reality, and then you said, "Well, you said
Okay.
reality exists,
I
so it means
apologize.
reality exists."
I apologize. It's kind of like ingrained in the philosophical arguments that I have with other people. It's not intentionally to upset you. I'm just asking, with the senses. So with the senses,
Okay,
you're saying, do they
let's
pick
try
up?
it again.
Do they pick up date? Are the sense? Can the senses be wrong? And you're saying they can be wrong. I just asked for an example.
Okay,
Because
but
if
then
the senses,
you're explaining.
let's say the sense, let's say for argument's sake, the senses are wrong. Yeah, and we're
Okay,
picking
like
and
someone who's colorblind. Okay.
no, not colorblind. Like there isn't a table in front of me when there is a table. When there is, and I walk into it, I bump into it and die. Right?
Like
No,
people who have delusions.
sure. But that's
Okay.
again, that's in the brain, not in the senses. But let's if for example, again, if for example I'm a creature and I need to survive in reality, again I'm using reality all the time, aren't I?
Yes.
If I'm a creature and I need to survive in my environment, yeah, because I need food and water according to human logic, yeah. And if I bump
Yes.
into stuff and I can't get accurate information about my reality, I'll just die, and humans wouldn't have evolved to the place where they are. And we couldn't invent things like laptops and USB microphones and houses and stuff like that because we can't interact with reality correctly or correctly enough. Let's say now that's the claim. Now if you're saying stuff like colorblind, like yeah, I can you can trick, not colorblind, sorry. Let's take taste. You can trick the taste by taking like a spoonful of sugar, putting it in your mouth, and then like the next thing you eat will taste very sour, for example. So there we can do like a logical correction and say, well, we just had sugar, therefore this may not be, we need to consider that logically, it may not be the most accurate thing. But in terms of like eyes and ears, can they be wrong about their environment? See, look, I changed environment area.
Probably. Like, isn't it the same as like if you heard something super loud, the next thing you hear will probably sound super low?
They're damaged in a way
I don't know.
from the
I'm
loud
just like
noise.
I'm not sure where we're going with this.
No, can they give me completely wrong data about my environment, my immediate environment?
Yeah.
Give me an
Like dog
example.
whistles, Yeah. That like if you
No,
operate
sorry.
a dog whistle, there are sound waves happening, but you can't hear them.
I appreciate that. So I'm not specifically saying things like infrared light, which I can't see, or like, because my eyesight, let's say, is limited to a particular range. But what my eyesight does pick up is that in my environment or in not in my environment.
It's in your environment.
Okay, so do we agree on?
Under
Be careful
understanding
what
of
you're agreeing to. Be careful what you're agreeing to. Do we agree?
I have prefaced many times,
Okay.
and you don't get what I'm prefacing. So
What do you
in
think?
our understanding of what an environment is, yes.
Sure. Okay, so
Okay.
so in my immediate environment, we agree that my senses, as limited as they are, they don't pick up everything, or they could be damaged. But the things they do pick up does exist in my immediate environment.
Sure.
Okay, and you're going to tell me the immediate environment doesn't actually exist, right?
I'm saying that without knowing if reality exists outside of humans,
I haven't thought about
or
that stuff.
outside of us.
I haven't. I'm just a
Wait.
cave. I haven't thought. I'm just a caveman. Didn't think about philosophy. Don't know any of the stuff you're talking about. All I see is I need food and I need water. Right? Do
Okay.
I exist in some kind of collective subconscious, or am I actually interacting with where I am, with my environment, to be able to sustain my life? Otherwise, I won't live 100,000 years to have conversations on the internet.
I don't know. How would I? I'm not you. I can't even tell that you're real. I can only tell my own experience, and some people don't even believe in that.
They don't believe you about your own experience?
No, some people don't believe in their own experience of reality, right? It's another type of philosophy.
Do you believe in your experience of reality?
Do I believe in it? I don't think
Yes.
it really matters. I think that's what I experience, so I have to operate within it because otherwise it will be maddening, you know?
So you believe that you believe that you either have to or you should trust your experience, otherwise it's just very difficult to continue life, yeah?
Yeah. Like I remember being in third grade and like that dropping for me, and then like thinking, asking my mom, like, what is even the point of living now if we don't know that we're real? Like I might just well like sit down and like starve myself to death until I die. And then she's like, yeah, I don't really know what to tell you. And then I'd be like, okay, but even doing that would be meaningless because anything I do is meaningless and thinking is meaningless. So yeah.
Okay, so you got into some really sad music early on in life, right? Started wearing
No, that wasn't
black
sad music.
clothes, painting your hair purple in spikes,
No,
painting
not
your hair in
really.
spikes, listening to rock and yeah, I know the phase. Don't worry, we got you. Um, so
Okay.
so in order to continue from that psychological situation, you did, sorry, you said, well, I'm just gonna trust or ignore, sorry, these thoughts and continue life, assuming that this is true.
I don't need to assume this. Well, yeah, we just kind of operate like it is, you know?
We assume,
Everyone else already does. It's very
yeah,
easy.
we assume that it's true, but we don't know for sure if it's true.
Yeah, that's my entire point, right? This entire time.
No, I'm trying to steelman your position.
Yes. My position is yes.
Okay, but you don't have any like you don't have any certain reason why you think that it doesn't exist. You just it's just a thought. You're entertaining a thought, there's no proof to it.
Yeah, there's no proof we exist and there's no proof we don't exist.
Sorry.
It's either or. We just can't tell which is which, obviously.
Well, we can tell some things, but you're saying I can't trust them for because I can't prove either
Yeah,
way.
we can tell things inside of human existence, inside of what humans have invented, inside what humans perceive, inside what humans understand.
What
We can't tell things outside of humans.
can I ask the question? Because this is intriguing. Why do you think that all humans are connected in some sort of way, and this connection creates their reality?
Well, let's take something. Well, first of all, I'm not saying that humans are all like psychically linked in some sort of way.
Okay.
What I mean is that humans transfer information to one another and we teach each other things. For
Okay.
example, science, to a certain extent, is something that is agreed upon by most people that currently exist on the planet, I think. Like the concept of science, or like the concept of gravity, for example. There are very simple, basic things that we understand. Like talking about cavemen, even cavemen understood that things fall, even if they didn't have the mathematical formula for gravity, right?
So I would say with definite certainty that not everyone agrees on science. There's certainly
Okay,
some aspects of it.
okay, now I'm gonna steel man you. But do
Yeah.
we agree that even if people don't believe in science,
Yeah.
they still all operate in the assumption that if they drop a pen, it's going to fall on the ground?
No, if they drop a pen, it actually falls to the ground, if they want it to or not.
Yeah, that isn't that what I said? I'm sorry, I'm confused.
No, it's yeah. You're saying they're operating as if like the pen will drop if they believe it will float in midair. Like, look, let's say like this, right? And I've seen this. Astronauts that come from their missions, and during the missions they would put a pen, like there's no gravity, they'll put like a pen next to their head, and it will stay there during space. And then when they come back to Earth, they're like doing an interview, and you can see this. They're putting a pen next to them, and then like they reach for something, and the pen just drops. Like
Yes,
they think
this is a great example to
Right.
how human perception and experience and like internalizing of what they feel is the external is like influenced. So whether gravity exists on Earth or not, people who are used to a certain things would still act like it's not, right? So it doesn't matter that gravity exists, they still act like it isn't. That's why I said they operate as if they're expecting it to fall. Because
No, but
what
they
matters is
didn't.
not if something falls or not, it's what the humans react to it. We engage with reality like gravity exists because we believe in gravity.
We believe in gravity, or we
Yes,
just
of
or we
course.
just try, or we interacted with it, and then we learned that it exists. Because, for example, the guy holding the pen and expecting the pen to stay in midair on Earth, he didn't expect it to fall. He didn't believe it will fall. Just for that moment, without thinking, he it's a now. Now, if you're saying the interviewer that was interviewing him overrode his expectation of reality, and the interviewer's expectation of reality won out, then, and that's why the pen fell, then that's a different argument. But like, I could just say gravity made it fall if he wanted to or not.
Okay. So, yes, okay. Science. So, when I said we believe that gravity exists, and then you asked, do we believe gravity exists or did we discover it? That's why I keep going back to that big point about like, if humans didn't exist, would Earth continue to exist the way that we understand it? And the reason why I asked that is because once we have that answer, we will know if we just believe in gravity or if we discovered gravity. But then we'll also know if reality exists outside of us or no. But we don't have that answer. So my theory is that we have discovered gravity and that we believe that we discovered gravity, and that's how we operate in life, right? But my only point is we don't know that. We assume that, we rationally deduce that, we have a pretty good sure idea about it, but we don't know that. That is my only point, which was
Okay.
Destiny's point as well.
No,
And then you said, no, I can prove it. And I'm like, no, you fucking can't, buddy. No.
so I was actually, I talked to a friend of mine who's a Destiny hardcore fan, who said that Destiny didn't actually mean what he said, and and quoting my friend, he's just bad at explaining this particular topic. He meant that for the point of the argument, but he doesn't actually fully believe that.
It doesn't matter what he believes. Like,
Okay, so
Destiny makes a lot of points that he doesn't believe in.
Outstanding. I'm not a hardcore fan myself.
Me neither.
So let's say if a large, am I really loud?
You're
Let's say
not
if,
loud.
let's
I
say for
fixed you.
okay, let's say if a large percent of people really believe in a god, in a Christian god, let's say, or any god really,
Okay.
and they all, like a large number of them, believe that this god exists. Is that enough? This expectation of reality, or this belief in reality, sorry, I'm using reality, this belief or expectation by a lot of people, is that enough for that thing to come into everyone's understanding of existence?
No, because some people don't believe in God, right?
So is it if one person doesn't, then no one can, then that God cannot come into this existence?
Well, I don't think humans are creating existence. If anything, we're imagining it.
Okay.
But I don't think that's either. I think we probably do exist in reality. You know?
Okay, cool. So is it just the case that we get reality wrong in some way?
Probably.
But there is a reality, we just don't have full access to it. or we could get it wrong.
I said we don't know.
But
We don't know.
Sarah, you believe that there is a reality, you just don't know.
Yes,
I see.
exactly.
Okay, so
I can believe
I'll walk it back.
things are true.
I'll walk it back. I misunderstood.
Yes, I can believe things are true. I can have my own ideas of what is true.
Okay.
Whether we can know it's true, whether it's scientifically proven, is a completely other topic, and that we cannot.
Why does scientifically proven? Why is the category of scientifically proven exceed everyone's understanding of reality? This is above them.
Because I believe in science more than subjective interpretations of humans.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Because subjective interpretations of humans are subjective in a way that science is like not.
Well, why is science higher than Christian theology, for example?
Because that's what I believe in. I don't know. Like, let me think about that. Because science is empirical and has a more level of objectivity to it. So I just subscribe to it.
Those things are not meaningful concepts in your system of belief.
No, not in my system of knowledge. They are in my system of belief.
Okay, so let's say you believe that.
I believe in science. I believe in science. Do I know that science exists the same way that I know, like, God doesn't exist? No, no one can know that. But I believe that God doesn't exist, and I believe science absolutely does. But it is a belief system because we can't know which is which. Like, we don't have we can't verify that.
Okay, let's
you can't verify the existence of reality the same way you can't verify the existence of God.
Well, I don't verify the existence of God. So to verify the existence of, I would say I can't prove a negative, and you would say
yes, that was my point this entire time.
So can't proving a negative also debunks your point, though. Do you appreciate why?
Tell me why.
Because if you say reality was created with angels and ants or something because you can't prove that it happened, and you can't tell me I can't disprove it. And if I say I can't prove a negative, that means the whole shebang isn't true. So you have to prove something.
As I said,
yeah.
No. From the beginning, I said there are things that science can't prove. Like if I say reality doesn't exist, science can't prove that.
Okay,
either.
I can't observe. I have no observation or no concretes that this exists.
Okay, so you can't prove it. I can't. And I believe in science, so okay, that's not gonna work for me.
But this do you appreciate that you saying you believe in science is arbitrary to someone who says I believe in I deeply believe in religion? Like there's no.
Yes, I've already acknowledged this. Like I've said that.
So this is like a flavor. Like I like this ice cream and I like that ice cream.
No, I believe I can make justifications for science that has better utility than belief in God. But I can make better arguments. Mm-hmm.
Why is utility important to adhere to?
Because humans generally look for utility in the way they engage with the world. That's why we have language for utility. That's why we have inventions for utility. That's why we have everything. It's to create utility in the social environment that we exist in.
To create utility for what end?
For humans.
To do what?
Unfortunately.
To what end is utility for what?
To do whatever they want.
Okay, so if someone
to do whatever they want.
So if for example religious people believing in religion is of great utility to them, then that is good or right or correct.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
No, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying from your framework. If
of course, there's nothing wrong with people believing in God.
Right, but if a belief in God or a belief in the system of religion conflicts with your science, then what?
then
Who
depending on
trumps?
how harmful it is, that's
Oh,
what
okay.
matters. It also
So
depends on the country.
so we have a
But this is no
skeptical.
longer, but this is now meaning and morals and ethics, and no longer the philosophy of you proving to me that reality exists.
Right, but reality exists based on its utility, apparently.
Well, yeah, we all agree that reality exists because it has the most utility for human existence. Yes.
Oh,
For the experience of
believing
human.
in reality is the most useful thing for us to believe in.
Yes, otherwise we'd all just kill ourselves.
Right, okay, but we can't prove it, but there's no point because even delving into it will reduce the utility of something.
Yes, that's what I've been saying. Like, this entire conversation is meaningless in any other context because discussing this is so pointless to human existence.
Okay, cool. So what if back to the religion example, what if someone who is
Mhm.
religious says that I'm of great utility sacrificing my life at a very young age for a make-believe entity, spiritual entity, and that is the most utility thing. The most utility I can do with my life is sacrifice, jump off into a volcano.
Okay.
What would you say to that? In your opinion, that is good, bad, moral, immoral, right, wrong?
I believe in complete agency. So if they're above 18, I believe in people doing whatever they want with their lives. So
But this is ending.
unless it hurts someone else,
It
then
hurts
I'm
that
not
it
so
will
much on board.
arguably it would cause harm. So
Oh no, but you mean like it would make their family sad, which I can
it
give
would
less
it
of a fuck about. So
could kill someone. That would cause harm, at least momentarily. A lot of harm momentarily.
I believe a human being is allowed to make decisions about their own bodily autonomy,
Right.
even
We're
to
not
end their own lives. Yes.
we're not doing my body, my choice just yet. I'm just saying this belief,
No,
this I
my body, my choice comes to euthanasia or any type of like
hold on.
anything as well.
I'm more talking about the ideology, like like drinking the Kool-Aid kind of thing. That the scenario where a bunch of people committed suicide, right?
Yeah,
They
like
all
I'm
deeply
not
believed. They all deeply believed.
particularly.
I'm just saying
Yeah, so
they all deeply believe this is the reality. There is a God. When they die, they go to heaven, and therefore
sure.
it's the right thing to kill themselves by drinking the Kool-Aid. And
Okay. And
good or
that's
bad,
unfortunate.
is it the
That's
right
unfortunate.
is it the right view of reality? I'm
Is
using
it the
reality
right
again.
view of reality?
Yes. Do they have the
Probably
right?
not,
Why not?
because that's not the reality I believe exists. So I'll say probably not, but it's subjective, right?
So you think that they're living that their understanding of reality is wrong because you have a different belief
Because
in
it's
reality.
different from mine. Yeah, it's called subjectivity. We all have our own understandings of reality.
So
For example, you are what, a theocratic capitalist?
me,
Is no,
I'm
a techno capitalist?
techno-capitalist. Yes.
Or was that a meme?
No, I like both those things.
Okay, so you're a techno capitalist, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And I am this hair close from being a socialist, right? So obviously, we
Oh
both have
dear.
very different understandings of reality, correct?
Right, but I can have a discussion with you about that, and
Yeah,
we could
but you
maybe
can't tell which
persuade.
one is correct.
In my world, yeah, I can. I mean, you mean morally
Yes,
or
that's my
consequentially?
point. That's
Mo-
my point. We all decide in our own worlds what is correct and what is not. It's called subjectivity.
morally, you're saying.
Morally, ethically, also not ethically, like the way that we all analyze the same data is different.
Okay,
So,
so if
some people look at something. Hmm.
well, there is the data. So if I say, sorry, that socialism causes more harm and less utility than capitalism, would you agree? Like historical socialism?
Historical?
Yes.
No, I'm not sure. In
Really?
terms of its brute. Wait, are you talking socialism or communism? But just to
either,
speak of communism, for example.
either.
Okay, to speak of communism, in brutality, sure, but like capitalism and late stage capitalism has caused probably more harm overall. But I could be wrong on that.
Are you sure about that?
No, I'm not. That's
Okay,
why I said I could be wrong on that.
so I'm assuming you know of some of the atrocities that happened during socialist / communist countries, right? I'm not really getting into it. I'm just saying,
Yes.
like, generally.
Yes.
So
you can make people starve to death without using camps too. But yes, I agree. In terms of brutality, there's no comparison.
Also in terms of harm, like brutality is one side, harm, starvation, stuff like that. I mean, if you
No, I'm saying capitalism causes starvation as well. That's my point. So,
well, I would disagree, but even if you, let's say you take a scientific way of evaluating this, and it is called comparative economics, and
okay.
And through this lens of comparative economics, we say that objectively, capitalism, according to this measurement or this method of evaluating, we say that capitalism caused less harm and is of more utility than historical socialism / communism.
Okay. How about this? I'll, for the sake of this argument, since I'm not a socialist and I don't particularly care about this too much, we'll say that capitalism caused less harm. Okay? No problem.
And more utility.
Well, in terms of utility, I'd probably argue that in the way the current world is set up, considering most countries are full-on capitalistic, obviously there's more utility to that. Yeah, sure, I agree.
I mean, I wish they were, but they're not really. They're like half and half.
Yikes. Okay. Yes. Okay, continue. What's your point?
Well, so if capitalism causes less harm and is of more utility, then that would be the better system to both implement.
Yeah, if you don't care about ethics. Yeah.
I can make the claim for ethics, but we're just saying. I mean, harm would be ethical in your system either way. If you're talking about a utilitarian consequentialist system, then both harm and utility are better in capitalism.
Yeah, so I think capitalism causes a lot of harm, especially late-term capitalism. I think socialism is a lot more ethical and is like the superior ethical choice. But I do believe that under the current like global economic state, being a socialist country wouldn't be more beneficial. It would actually be pretty harmful. But if everyone were socialist and like if socialism was properly implemented, and you can argue that it could never be properly implemented, but that doesn't mean that the idea in itself is like wrong. You could just say that there are certain things that aren't properly, like the idea of growing body parts to help people who are dying because their body parts are malfunctioning. Yeah, we might not have that technology right now. It doesn't mean the idea is bad. It just means that we don't have the tools to implement it properly right now.
In China, they just take your body part. They just take the body parts of political prisoners anyway. But
yes, China is very bad.
But so this is actually an interesting point that we can that revolves back to our original topic. So I'm just humor me by when I say reality. Don't take it personally, right? So let's say
I'm not taking it personally.
Just humor me because it's difficult for me not to. Apparently, I never realized this, that I have this limitation up till now. But
it's not a limitation. It's just a very useful way of talking. It's just cool. In this conversation, it's the one thing where it doesn't work. That's all.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
So let's say if you look at socialism just from a historical lens, like I'll just Google it and these things will come up, and arguably you can say it didn't work out and the results of it were deeply immoral. But we're also saying at the same time that the system itself, away from reality, in some kind of imaginary, hypothetical, detached way, is moral, right? Because because we care about each other, we're altruistic, we don't want people to suffer from nature. This is like the socialist ideal and everything. But when it goes when it's applied to reality, something goes wrong. Again, I use reality, I apologize, but something goes wrong, and it goes a very different way, and this cannot be the same system we had a second ago, which was altruistic, for the greater good, all those things.
Yeah,
How is
but
it
I'd make that argument about any system with humans. I don't think humans are capable of creating good. Like, I think humans are just like
inherently flawed? Yeah,
this is inherently evil. Yeah,
inherent.
probably, but also
I don't know about that. I like humans. I think humans are. I have a benevolent worldview.
yeah, I know you do. It's why you're a capitalist. But I don't.
Capitalist. They don't like those. No, touch wood. Touch wood. Capitalist.
No, yeah, this is completely subjective, right? But subjectively, I'm a misanthrope. So, like, when I say inherently, I don't mean that, like, I can prove it, because clearly I can't. Like, human nature in itself is a subjective concept. But for me, like, humans are innately incapable of being good to each other. So, like, yeah.
I don't
Because
know.
my entire argument is like, if humans were capable of not treating each other like trash, none of this would be happening. But it is, so clearly they can't. But yeah, that's a
Okay,
completely different story.
so what you're saying is that the reason why socialism didn't work out is because human nature we're saying, yeah, is innately
No,
no.
I'm saying the reason when you say, well, here's a reason why socialism didn't work out, it's because something is wrong with the system itself, and that's why it had bad outcomes. And I'm saying, okay, if you're going to make that argument, I would make that argument about any system, because any system has more harm than it should.
Okay,
so I don't buy that argument.
let me raise a hypothetical here. Let's say a system should be both moral and practical.
Let's say that.
Okay, so if the outcomes of the system are bad or immoral, then the ideas that started the system are immoral as well.
I disagree with that.
Okay, so can we even have such a system that the moral and the practical are integrated?
Under my worldview, no, because I don't think humans are moral. So
not sure what to go with this one. So if humans, why do you think humans are not moral to one another? Like, am I moral with you now, for example?
Moral is a very big. Do you mean ethical? Like, in what way? We're not really harming each other.
Am I trying to wish you harm, or trick you in any way, or scam you as a Nigerian prince that if you put some money in my bank account, then I'll put some more money in yours?
Probably not, but I can't know that.
What does your womanly intuition tell you?
My womanly intuition is that I don't have womanly intuition, but
tap into that intuition. What do you get the impression?
My intuition is telling me that you're just fine.
Okay, cool. So you and I are just fine. I'm assuming that you run into other fine people, like just fine people in your life as well. Some even better than just fine, right? And
sure,
if you
I'm not really talking about individuals,
but hold on,
talking about constructed systems,
right? But your example, even individuals within these same systems, when you interact with them, I'm assuming most of them are nice. Now, obviously, some are not nice, and you may have run into some of them. But would you say the majority are nice, or the majority are inherently?
That's not what I mean when I talk about humans being immoral. Like, again, individuals
from your experience,
that
though.
like. From my experience, yes. I don't know. Most people are garbage, but so yeah, from my experience, people are not very nice. But that's not really my point. Like this is like saying, if you talk to every single Nazi officer, they were all like nice people, and to be fair, a lot of them probably were. They were still Nazi officers who were operating under a certain system that made them perpetuate genocide. Mm-hmm. So that's not really the point.
I would argue that a certain ideology, like the same ideology that made someone jump into a mountain, in a volcano, made them do those things. And I would say, I would add,
I'd say it probably has more to do with the susceptibility of humans to certain things,
Sure.
like
Definitely.
power, like
I
herd
would say,
mentality, like a lot of things.
right. I would say a populist ideology. We're getting off topic, but a populist ideology will affect a larger group of people, and maybe get them angry at something, and then they'll band together to
Yeah,
vanquish that.
it's like the mob mentality
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
of like one person would probably never like go and kick you on the street, and yet we have many instances of like mobs like attacking a single individual and like butchering them. So
Yeah, we have
that's just how humans are.
we have a phenomenon for that kind of mob thing. It's called de-individuation. When you're
The
inside a mob, you are not an
individuation.
individual, and you feel more less inhibited to do bad things.
Yes, because you there's the notion that you'd avoid accountability, and there's also the certain other factors that go into it. Yes, I'm aware. It
Right, but
was in
like
my psych book.
but not like in but outside, like mobs, angry mobs, like in the street, like in terms of like countrywide, and even when you're not next to a mob. I mean, I think that ideology kind of like basically grabs people. So my name is Philosophical Zombie Hunter, and I feel like there are some ideologies that turn people into philosophical zombies, or like capture their brain, and they do things that I can. Once I understand what the ideology is, they do things that I can predict what they're gonna say next, or the topics they're gonna raise, because it's the same.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I get it. By the way, do you have a Twitch or something?
I don't Twitch. I just I have a Substack. It's about
Okay, I just shouted you out. And I don't even know if that's you, but I shouted out Philosophical Zombie Hunter. So like I'm just gonna follow this channel, and everyone else who wants to will as well. And I don't know
I
if
have
that's even you,
I
but
have a YouTube. Like you could probably
okay, then plug that one.
okay, Philosophical Zombie Hunter on YouTube, and
Let me find.
I also have a if you find me on Twitter, I also have in my bio, I have a podcast thingy, which is basically YouTube,
Oh, I
just in audio form on a podcast.
do you in this channel you can enjoy economic and political debates.
Yes,
Is that you?
that is me.
Are you that old?
What what does that mean? Yes, I'm that old. How old am I?
No, because in the thumbnail there's a person with like white hair, and I assumed you're in your 30s, so I just wasn't sure.
No, I don't have. Well, not yet, or not a lot of white hair, but what, an actual person or like a cartoon of a person?
No, there's like an actual person in
Oh
the
no,
thumbnail.
then no.
Okay. I'm sorry. That was completely inappropriate.
No, it's fine.
I don't know why that just escaped my lips. I apologize.
I am super old though, like really, really old.
How old are you
Oh my
though?
god.
Because if you're over 30, I'll call you old.
You can call me old.
Wait. You said that you left after your military service and you've
Yes,
been in the UK for like 20 years. So you're
a bit.
approaching 40.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe. I didn't say
Okay.
I didn't say that
Well,
all my years were in the UK, but yeah.
oh no.
Suddenly I left Israel after the military service, yeah.
What'd you do
Which
in the
was
military?
you know, can't say really, but
You
yeah.
can't say?
Well, I
That's
mean,
bad.
I'll tell you,
That's never
I'll
good.
tell you off stream if you want, but yeah, it's not. I don't know
That's
if I should
great.
be
That's
saying it.
awesome. Yeah, I'm an anti-Zionist, so I don't think that's gonna go over very well.
You were born there, but you hate the country.
I hate the country. First of all, yes, I do hate the country, but like, that's not what anti-Zionism is.
You
So,
don't think there should be a country?
well, there already is one. Obviously, I would have preferred if there never was one. Now there is, and we have to deal with it being there because it's not going anywhere. So
Nope,
that's just how it is.
staying forever.
Oh God. Oh,
we're very on different sides of the spectrum in so many things. Well, we can still have a conversation without killing each other. See, isn't that nice?
look at that morality. Look at us being all moral with each other.
Civil, yeah. British politeness.
Yeah, it's definitely not my Israeli nature to be polite. I can tell you that.
You're gonna throw stuff at the screen, so like throw your shoe at the screen, like how dare you say these things?
My shoe.
Yeah, you're gonna take your
My
shoe off,
shoe.
your slipper off.
I have a white plastic chair. I'm gonna throw at the screen very fucking soon. Okay, this is pull time, bitch. It's all.
Get all
Oh
violent.
God.
Wait, which
Yeah.
are you European or descent or?
I'm Ashkenazi Jew.
Okay, I am as well.
So, yeah, I figured from the way you asked that.
Well, I was asking politely. I don't know. Like,
it still says something.
well, if if you're really violent, then it can be. I'm just kidding. Just all these. It's really funny when you're in Israel. You're so racist to all the other different streams of Jews that came from other countries. But when you leave Israel, everyone's like the same.
Yeah, I think it's because people who live outside of Israel don't really realize how racist Israeli people are to each other. And like also a lot of people only know Ashkenazi Jews. They're like completely unaware that other ethnicities of Jewish people even exist. So
yeah, well, I mean, it's like racist, but like very light, not like hardcore racism. It's just like a stereotyping.
Oh, I think it's hardcore racism. I'm not gonna
I don't know about
downplay
that. I mean, I know like we say jokes about stuff, but I don't think like we actually see each other as different human beings. I mean, sorry, not like not like different like races entirely.
That's not what racism is, though.
I mean, there's some jokes like or like back when I was like,
I think some jokes can be racist.
Sure, but not beyond that.
Not beyond that. Well, clearly you haven't been following the news lately.
What have I missed? The rockets or what?
Just everything. We're delving into fascism.
The thing about what was it? Changing the court system to be political
reform. Yeah.
Yeah, I think political, yeah. I think because some things were rejected. I can't say I really follow that. I'm aware of the protests against it. My understanding, yeah, that you put some politicians in the judicial system, and that wasn't really on.
Maybe people were less racist when you were here.
Are you there now?
Yeah.
You're in Israel now?
Yeah.
I didn't realize.
Yeah, I am. I moved back after I broke up with my German partner, so I've been here for the last 2 years.
Okay. I'm sorry to hear that you broke up with your partner.
It's okay. I actually talked to him today. I called him crying, and I was like, I really need to talk, and I like your voice. Can you make me feel better? And then he sat there for half an hour and just like listened to me cry and gave me shit for being a bad girlfriend in the past.
Well, at least he snuck that in.
Yeah, he's like, you know how you never did the dishes? I forgive you.
It's rough out here for us. That. It's rough out here for us men. Just rough.
That's what it is. Do you mind if I wrap it up? I'm a bit tired on talking.
What is the time?
Also, like No, for me it's like 3 a.m.
Yeah, it's probably late. Sure.
But it's late for you too. It's like 1 a.m. for you, isn't it?
Once you get to my age.
I'm so sorry. Oh my god. I'm okay. Yes, I apologize.
So you wanted to wrap up in some way. Go on.
Yes, the way that I wrap up. Okay, the bow is I hope that we'll get to talk again. I'll
Sure.
probably do an Israel panel at some point if you don't mind me inviting you, maybe. That'll be
In
cool.
Hebrew? Jeez, I really have to brush up on that.
No, not in Hebrew. Not in Hebrew.
Good. Yeah, invite me. Sure.
Good. Okay, cool. Then I'll see you around, and I'm happy everyone hopefully joined your YouTube. So yeah.
My YouTube is amazing. Please join my YouTube. You will enjoy it.
That's a nice plug. Okay. Well, I'll see you around then.
Bye, Katie.
Bye bye.